Thank you for taking the time to learn about some changes in the tracking of our managed services and other annuities business in PSA. As this part of our business continues to grow, it is important that we are able to accurately track and report on it. In order to do this, we must all be following the same processes globally. First, we need to understand some of the terminology. There are several types of services throughout the organization that we are including here: managed services, extended services, and other retainer-type services. Soon, we will be adding more of the customer education as well, specifically the TD Network annual membership. For all of these services, there can be completely different contracts in place. Let's focus on managed services only and look at some of the different contract combination examples. One example is that there could be a contract that is 100% T&M, or maybe a contract that is a 12-month fixed fee for the same monthly billing amount along with a one-time license fee, or even a 6-month fixed fee contract that has an additional portion of T&M included. Or maybe you have a contract that has partial managed services, let's say a license fee, and an additional part to the contract that is T&M, let's say for Aster. All of these combinations are at least partially considered managed services. In fact, everything except for the last one is all managed services. We want to be able to track all financials for these. In order to do this, there are a few system and process changes that need to happen. One, we have added a new drop-down at the engagement level where you can select if the contract does contain managed services or one of the other services types. Or you can select no if the contract does not contain any of these. So looking back at our examples, all of these would have had the Yes Managed Services option selected because all of them have at least part of the contract that is managed services, regardless of the work or fees that are needed. Number 2 is that managed services work needs to be in its own project if the contract is mixed, as our final example is. The correct solution type and PID need to be selected. If the contract is all managed services, then you would only need one project. But when there is a mixed contract, and you've identified it as containing managed services at the engagement level, the only way to know the accurate cost and revenue for the managed services portion is to have the correct PID and solution type at the project level. Only one engagement is needed, just multiple projects. There is still something additional that we need to track, but are unable to do without one more new process. Sticking with our managed services example, we can get revenue, cost, and margin for these engagements. But one calculation that is still needed and required by Teradata leadership is called the annual recurring revenue, also referred to as ARR or file value. This is a calculation that tells us the value of our renewable contracts that are recurring revenue amounts, meaning the same amount each month. This excludes all T&M and one-time or variable fees. We are calculating it specifically for these different services types. Only renewable contracts that have a recurring amount, meaning the same amount each month, for an extended period of time would be included in this. We call this an annuity. Looking back at our examples, we've already said that all of them are considered at least partially managed services, but only example 2 actually contains what we would call an annuity. It has 12 monthly payments of the same amount. The file value calculation uses the start date, end date, and total amount of the recurring fixed fees. A simple example is a contract for $800,000 to be paid in 8 equal monthly increments from January to August. The file value would be $800,000 divided by 8, which equals $100,000. This is then multiplied by 12 to annualize it. You will not be required to make this calculation in the system. It will calculate it for you. But the calculation relies on accurate fixed fee schedules to be created. Let's walk through this now. Sticking with our example, if you are not currently scheduling your fixed fees for a contract set up like this, you need to be. It is very important that we truly understand when a fixed fee is going to start and end, and what the total amount is. So let's go ahead and schedule our $800,000 fixed fee into 8 billings. Right-click to insert a fixed fee and fill out the information appropriately. I'll put in the $800,000, and you can call the deliverable whatever makes sense for you. I'll call this MS 2015 deliverable. Remember, we are not billing this. This will be the parent fixed fee that has the total amount. We will auto-create children fixed fees that will actually be billed. So go ahead and select Do Not Invoice. Billed will be checked automatically when all of the children are billed. Notice the new checkbox for annuity. This needs to be checked. Remember, this should only be checked when the fixed fee is equal amounts for an extended period of time. Check the Allow selection on tasks because we are going to assign this parent to a task so that the hours or costs can be associated to it. Now check the Show Schedules field. Notice the second box opens up below. Click the Auto Add Schedule Items button. I'm going to select January 1st as my first billing date. It is going to be invoiced monthly, so I will select Monthly, which changes the fields to fill in. I'm going to leave the settings to bill each month on the first day of the month, but this could be changed based upon your contract. And then I will enter 8 for the number of scheduled items since it is an 8-month contract. The amount per schedule item is automatically calculated. Now I can click OK. Notice my fixed fees have been created and I did not need to create each one separately. They all have the annuity checkbox checked. When you set up your project and task, you will select the parent fixed fee on the task. Note that I do not need to create a new task for each of the child fixed fees. Only the parent needs to be assigned to a task. And when you create your PSA invoice each month, you will select the appropriate child fixed fee to invoice. Just to recap, it is important that if the contract is set up to include regular payments of the same amount, you should 1. Schedule your fixed fees and not enter each individually, and 2. Check them as annuity. If the annuity checkbox is not checked, they will not be included in the file value amount. There will be a lot of compliance reporting for the next few months to ensure that these engagements, fixed fees, and projects are being set up correctly. A good tip that would likely be very helpful in these types of engagements is to use the Copy Engagement option. Notice that you can select the date for the fixed fee schedule to start. When you copy the engagement, a new set of scheduled fixed fees will be created automatically using this date. It's like magic and it can make your life so much easier. There is one more topic that is not totally related to managed services or annuity, but it is something that we wanted to take this time to make sure that everyone understands. And that's how to defer and recognize revenue in PSA. So why is it important that we are deferring and recognizing revenue in PSA and not outside of the system? Here are some of the top reasons. If you pre-bill the entire amount and you do not defer it in PSA, your gross margin starts at 100% and slowly goes to the budgeted margin at the end of the project. It is not reflected correctly in the PSA reporting for year-to-date totals. Secondly, we should match between the systems. If there is a PS transaction for revenue, either an ERP or the GL, we should have an equal transaction in PSA. GL should not dictate the amount of revenue recognized by PS. This should always be directed by PS based on contract level information. In addition, we want to be able to accurately track backlog to validate that we are still in sync with expected project revenue amounts. Now that we have talked about why we need to defer and recognize revenue in PSA for pre-bills, let's do a quick walkthrough in PSA. Let's say that I'm going to pre-bill $1.2 million for a 12-month managed services project. Here are the steps that I need to do in order to defer and recognize revenue correctly. 1. I need to create my parent and 12 child fixed fees, one for each month. 2. I need to create 2 products. One will be in the full amount of $1.2 million, and the other is in the inverse of that, the negative $1.2 million. So they cancel each other out. Make sure that the products are also assigned to a project. Now, you would create an invoice and bill the customer for the positive full amount, which is the first product. You would also create an internal draft invoice for the negative amount. Revenue is now 0. As you are able to recognize revenue, internal releases for the monthly fixed fees can be processed. If you are able to recognize the first month when submitting the draft with the negative amount, you can include that on that internal invoice. Hopefully this will help with any questions that you might have with regards to deferring and recognizing revenue. Please feel free to contact your Region Biz Ops or Global Biz Ops if you have more questions about this. To quickly summarize setting up services and annuity engagements, fixed fees, and projects, there are 3 important things to remember. 1. Select the correct options in the contract contains Managed Services or Other Annuity field on the Configurable Fields tab of the engagement. 2. Create a separate project under the same engagement and select the correct solution type and PID when you have a mixed contract. 3. Schedule fixed fees when they are of regular recurring amounts, and check the annuity checkbox. And 4. Ensure that you are deferring and recognizing revenue correctly in PSA. We are not able to put a link in this training, but please visit the PS Operations Info Hub in Teradata Connections and print off the Managed Services/Other Annuity cheat sheet. This is also a good time to take a look around the site in Connections for other PSA-related reference material. Thank you for your help and for taking the time to watch this video. If you have any questions about the processes described, please send an email to the Global PS mailbox. Thank you.